African agricultural problem is not just about farming or production. It's basically more of a narrative and a story behind what we do. So you see, until we fix the narrative and the story around the African agriculture, we'll still keep struggling. No amount of land, no amount of capital, even no amount of change in government policies can actually fix this. And here's what I mean. So when you look around the African agricultural space, over the decades, they've always been telling the young people around Africa to go back to the farm, to go back to production, to keep producing, to go back to planting and harvest. As much as this is very, very important, I'm not dismissing production, it's very, very important. But the honest truth is, real wealth are not being built just in the farm. The real wealth as of today in Africa, in the agricultural sector, are being built around the farm, are being built by the system, by the people who build around the farm, who solve the problem around the farm, who cover those margins around the farm. And I'll prove this to you with two stories. I'll tell you about the flour mills of Nigeria. You see, when you look at the flour mills of Nigeria, this particular organization owns and company owns no farm, they own no wheat, they just own a mill who process all these things, and they are one of the biggest flour companies, processing companies coming out of in the continent and coming out of Africa. No supermarket you go around in Nigeria, you won't see a product from flour mill of Nigeria. And same thing Olam Rice is doing. Olam Rice is one of the biggest agribusiness operators in the continent of Africa, with zero farmland and working with over 100,000 smallhold farmers. And they've been around for a long time. They have a very big chain, and these people basically own no farmland. They just solve the problem around the farm. And here's how I think it, if I want to think it as a generational wealth in Africa. Yes, the first generation deals with extraction, where they extract these raw materials and sell it without getting any value for it. And now the second generation basically processing it. Yes, keeping some part of the value back in the continent. However, the third generation should build a story around what we do. Own the story, own the value, not just being a part of the value, not just being a vehicle around the value. The third generation should look at owning the value, which is very, very important. And that's why when you're building around agriculture, when you're building around the agricultural sector in Africa, one question I'll always ask you is, which generation are you really building for? Are you really just building for extraction, building to sell the value, to export it and probably import it back as a finished good? Or are you really just being a part of the value system, where you're just working, finding a part of the system to be attached to? Or are you really owning the story? Are you really building to own the story? And that's where we should be looking at in Africa. We should look to own the story. We should look to build a story. And when you could answer these questions, what you're really building for, or where you're